Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Brown Knives Cortex XL. This is a fully USA made pocket knife, small batch, so the pricing is substantially higher than what we would normally see in the knife world. We'll come back to that. This is mine. I paid full price for it. So just want to let you guys know before we go into the review, this was not sent to me for free by Brown Knives. Nope. I paid for it. Thanks so much to my patrons for supporting me. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. And at least for the time being, you can follow me on TikTok at the_metal_complex. Let's go ahead and get a measurement of this knife. The overall length of the Cortex XL is coming in at, I'm getting 8 inches on the dot. Blade length is 3.5 inches and your cutting edge is about 3. So why do they call it the XL? Because the standard Cortex is a lot smaller. That doesn't mean that it's supposed to be an XL folding knife like the Cold Steel 4MAX or something. That just means it's XL compared to the standard Cortex. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons. I don't have the smaller Cortex. I don't own one. I have reviewed it though, so I am familiar with it. And this one is definitely bigger. Let's do size comparisons. Any custom skills you find in this section can be found down in the description under Original Goat and Others. So up against the AD10 and the AD20.5. You can see here, it is definitely a little bit longer than stuff like the AD20.5, but nowhere near as robust or large as something like the AD10. How about up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3? Once again, kind of in between, but it is very compact in nature, so it carries a lot more similar, right? When we fold this thing up, just want to point this out. We'll come back to this. When you fold it up, it carries very similar. In fact, actually a little more compact than knives like the Spyderco Para 3. And then finally, let's put it up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue and the Hogue Deca. All right. So how's the action on this knife? Wow, is it good? So this is, it's got a nested or like a countersunk wide steel liner lock, much like, actually I've got it right here, the Shirogorov Stellar. It's kind of the same style, so it just looks like a little cartridge there that nests into the titanium, and I like that. I don't need that part to be titanium because truthfully, my preferences when it comes to stuff like this are if the lock bar itself is titanium, I want a steel lock bar insert. Why? Because I want that steel on steel interaction that dramatically slows the wear of the lock bar down. So making the entire thing out of steel is fine. Some people really need that thing to be titanium and then a chip of steel to be nested into it. That's also cool. Personally, I don't really care. I just really care about the functionality of it. And I have to imagine it's both this way and it being titanium with a steel lock bar insert is probably pretty expensive to do. More importantly, the effect of this is just wonderful. You can see here that that's raised above this scale here, and that's just an absolutely perfect way to do that. There's also a huge forward choil here, which means, that is just magic, man. This fuller here allows you to reverse flick it. The flipper up here, this is a top flipper, which is different than a front flipper, and it works so well. The leverage you get off this is wonderful. The satisfaction of the flip is wonderful. The blade drops down to your thumb, very safe, unsharpened portion of the blade, and then you can turn and just, oh boy, that is just great. The detent is wonderful. It just works perfectly. Huge fan of the action. It's super smooth, very controlled. Really, really nice stuff. This is top tier, semi-custom. You can call it a mid-tech, right? A lot of people would call it ultra high-end production. A lot of people would call this custom, right? I would call this a semi-custom. We have machine elements, but they are certainly, created in a way that is a lot more hands-on than some of the massive companies that are creating things in huge quantities, right? Each one of these has a lot of love and care. And for people, absolutely racking their brain over the idea of a pocket knife costing this much, you're just not really going to get it. until you experience a lot more of what the knife world has to offer. You know, we all kind of go through that. I remember having my head and my brain blown apart by the realization that expensive pocket knives exist. And it wasn't until I got to handle and, you know, experience and compare things that I truly started to understand. And of course, on top of that, realizing that you can't just reduce it to materials or compare to massive companies that, you know, operate on volume. There's just a lot more that goes into it, right? But I would say discover that at your own pace and think whatever you want. That's perfectly fine. But getting back to the action, it's really stupendous. It really is great. Let's go ahead and do carry profile. This is where this thing shines, in my opinion. Thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3, it's actually a little thinner. Length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3. Wow, this thing is super compact for a full titanium knife, right? That's actually, I would call this a full-size knife. It really just disappears in the pocket. I have been carrying this. In fact, it was in my pocket today. This knife has had, I would say, a solid 2 weeks of carry, and it's just been an absolute joy. It really carries just beautifully. Let's go ahead and weigh it. So materials, what are we looking at here? We're looking at MagnaCut for the blade. You'll have to excuse me. I believe what he said or what I read is that the Rockwell hardness is around 62 to 63. That's plenty good. I'm fine with that. That's perfectly fine. And then we have titanium. We have a milled clip, and we have a simple backspacer. And then on the inside here, we have not really any weight reduction. You just have some general information there milled into the inside of the scale. And then we have the steel lock bar insert, or well, the nested lock bar itself. The weight of this guy is coming in at, wow, 3.53 ounces. I never actually weighed it. I just knew, I was like, man, this just feels really good. And it's no surprise. I mean, there's not a lot of any of the material here. The blade's not overly thick. The scales are not overly thick. The balance comes back here, which is a ways from the pivot, but it's also still right in the middle of where your index finger falls, that's a really comfortable spot. We'll talk more about that here in a sec, but the knife feels very good. It's the joy of carrying a full-size knife that feels very capable, but is not weighing you down. This is just a really good size. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. I'm gonna move some stuff around here because I'm running out of room on my desk. Get out my tools. As per usual, my tools are very inexpensive, and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use in this channel. Or the pinned comment has it listed right at the top every single time. So I believe the pivot, I have not had to adjust this at all, by the way. The pivot is a T8, and this one, boy, is the body screw a T10? That's funny. Usually you see the larger head as the pivot, but yeah, that's a T10, okay. And then you got some T10s in there for the hidden screws for the pocket clip. And then the screw that is actually holding in the nested liner is underneath the pocket clip, and that's the head, but it also looks, or I'm sorry, this is the head in here. That also looks like a T10. So anyways, disassembly of this knife will be insanely simple. I mean, insanely simple. As long as you have the right tools for the job, you should be good to go. Let's measure the blade stock thickness real quick here, and then we can get on into the meat and potatoes because I definitely have a couple of points that I want to make here. All right, blade stock thickness is coming in at 120 thousandths. That is great. All right, let me get some stuff out of the way here because this is a really excellent knife. The ergonomic lines are just wonderful for scales that are not contoured. Ergonomically, this thing is a dream. It is so stupidly comfortable. It is just one of the most accommodating, and it's not a complicated or never seen before profile, right? This is a knife profile we've seen before, but it's so well done. Every edge is knocked down. The texturing is aggressive enough that you can get real traction, but it's nowhere near what I'd call aggressive in general. It's just a good texturing. You have a few different options for texturing. I think at least 2 other options for texturing, right? This one, he had not done. He said, what texturing do you want on it? And I said, well, you got this diamond texture. It's really cool. And he said, I haven't actually mapped that one out yet, but I'll go ahead and do it. He's also got what I call the Captain Planet texturing, where it kind of looks like the rotating grid on the globe look. And then maybe one more, maybe the horizontal lines. I like them all. They're all great. This is really my favorite. It's just beautiful. It's not aggressive. It's really nice to look at and provides real traction. I also appreciate the extra polish on the scales. That's normally not what we see. Everybody is just doing like tumbled or dark tumbled or bead blasted. Wow, these are really, really expensive, and I just like seeing something a little bit different. I like seeing a higher polish. Something that I've really come to appreciate over time about how Hinder Knives does their full titanium scales. They're just beautiful. They've got an extra polish to them, and that's really nice. I like that. Really great. So the ergonomic lines are great. The action's great. The disengagement of the lock bar is great. It's all great. On top of that, the cutting geometry of this knife is ridiculous. It is so aggressively thin. Oh my goodness, the tip, nice and thin. I've had no problems with the Magna Cut at all. It's just been cutting and cutting and cutting and just has not slowed down. I don't think I even have any nicks that you can see there. This is nasty sharp. Crazy. Now, I'm going to talk about the price right in the middle of the review here, because the truth is the design of this, right? I could go on and on and on and on. Functionally, this knife is wonderful, right? Even under the pocket clip, you can see there's that bald spot under there, and that just slips in and out of the pocket with ease. Would it have been nicer if you'd had a lefty side or you can mount it? Yeah, I think you should just make lefty models, right? Because I really want to appreciate this lock side here. Also love how he does his pivot with his logo there, and he keeps all the information on the inside on this scale right here. The blade doesn't have any branding or anything on it. It's really nice. All of that's great. Functionally, this is wonderful. I have handled a lot of knives made in a lot of different countries at various price points. On this channel, over 4,000 uploads, knives that cost $20, knives that cost $7,000, right? I've had a lot of experience. This tier, I'm fortunate enough to have handled a lot of stuff at this territory, the $700 to $1,000 territory, right? You got your Rob Johnson's new company doing a great job, right? You have your Koenig knives, you have your Holt knives, you got your Brown, you got Herman, some Shirogrovs, right? Did I say Koenig? You got Oz Machine Company, right? Number of other knives. I've handled a lot of them. And I think Brown is doing a really great job. But something that really made Brown stand out to me initially, and it's the reason that I ordered my FSD. This is actually my second knife from Brown. And I'm really happy to have paid for it. Now, I want to make sure that that's very clear before I say what I'm going to say. The original Brown Cortex is special. It has some elements that made me go, holy crap, are you kidding me? Couple of things. Number one, first and foremost, those scales are contoured. Yes, it's a smaller knife. It's a smaller knife. Those scales are contoured. That's a big deal. The machines, I say this over and over again. Like, a lot of people I think would just say, what's the big deal? It's just titanium. No, there's a huge difference. There's a huge difference between a flat piece of titanium and a contoured and textured piece of titanium. That is so expensive to do. Oh my gosh. Let alone the fact that it's just him like making knives in the USA, small batch, right? It's so expensive to do, right? And if you don't think so, then you go do it. And then you make a knife and you reach out to me and say, Metal Complex, I made this thing for $300. I want you to review it. And if you're right, then I'll call it the greatest thing that's ever been produced in the United States. If you can really do this for that little, right? But if you can't, then stop telling me that it shouldn't cost this much because you don't know. You have no idea. It's so expensive, right? If you want to say that, I will wait. I'm a pocket knife reviewer. I would love for you to be the first person in the world to produce this for substantially less, right? And be able to get it out to everybody who wants one and still have your company profitable enough that you can pay all of the costs associated with running a business and insuring everything and all of that, right? But if you can't do it, then just go down to your local supermarket, buy the nicest lemon meringue pie that they offer, put it on the ground, and headbutt it. Anyways, let's go. I know those comments are there. I know those comments are coming, right? I know. But I'm gonna defend these companies because what they're doing is really expensive. It took me a long time to understand this, but it's very expensive. So anyways, that Cortex was special, contoured titanium. He also did a few of them with beautiful inlays or, combination material scales. Beautiful. He was still doing the polishing. On top of that, one of the Cortex that I got a hold of had an incredible finish on it. It was like a super high polished tumble, right? The kind of high polish that you see on like the Spyderco Python. I was like, whoa. And I looked at the price tag. I was like, these are a small batch USA. Like, that's incredible, right? Now, this FSD is really, I'm sorry, not FSD. This Cortex XL is really, really nice. It's really nice. But it's, flat titanium, and it's kind of a cross between, if you look here, he said it is tumbled, but it's also like a machine satin, right? And it's fine. It's fine. I love everything about this knife functionally. And I think elements of it are beautiful, right? But if I'm being perfectly honest, as somebody who bought this, right? And either way, whether I get these things for free or I don't, there's countless examples on my channel of me getting super expensive knives for free and then kind of taking a crap on them, right? Because it's much more important to me that I speak the truth. I really wanted, for the price, which is $850, I really want this to be what the smaller Cortex was. Brown knives, I think this is great. I think that the price tag on this is a bit high. And I don't think there's a problem with you producing like the flat scales and like the less, intense finish on the blade. I think that's fine. But I would love to see you do what you did with the smaller one with the bigger one. And if this knife had that finish and the contoured, it doesn't have to have the inlays or any of the different combo scales or anything like that, but if it was contoured and had that polish, man, I would own multiple. If you 800, I know that it's really expensive to do. What I'm asking for is super expensive, right? There's a reason that you don't see that very often. I brought this up with the Oz Machine Company Roosevelt. I was like, you got the contouring. I want to see a more polished finish for this price tag, right? I think the finish is kind of basic. Those are the little teeny tiny elements that I feel like a lot of people, like buyers like me, really want. Now, some buyers are going to want this, but I don't think that this is I don't think it's quite $850 territory. Do I think, I kind of stutter, territory is how you say that. Do I think that this is deserving of $775? Yeah, right around there. I think that's fine. It's not so like over. I'm like, oh my God, this should be priced the same as a Hinder XM18. No, no, this is clearly on another level, right? Hinder knives, for example, is also operating much more on volume. I'm a huge Hinder fan as well. I just don't like those. They're not in the same tier. But I would have lost I love this. And this is honestly, like, at the end of this, for people shopping in this territory, I do think this is a recommendable product, but I think it could be better. And I think you could really blow people away by applying that same finish. I don't know how you do that. I don't know what processes are involved, but what's working against you here is that I know that you can do it. I've seen it. And that first Cortex, I was like, what kind of black magic is this? This is amazing. Holy moly. It's beautiful, right? The moment he starts doing that, I'll be first in line. I'll buy another one of these. I'll probably buy two because I won't be able to decide what configuration I want. But that's honestly what I think. So if you are waiting on yours, you've already bought it, and you're wondering, did I make a good choice? You absolutely did. You're going to love this. It's going to be one of your favorite EDC knives, right? It's hard for me to get this thing out of my pocket right now. I really, really love this knife. It's so good. It's so comfortable, and it's a joy to get it out every single time, right? It's also, interestingly enough, I have a group of friends, that I meet up with periodically for, we go down and get a burger, or we go, somebody's having a cookout or whatever. This is one of those knives where even people who are not knife guys, will hold this thing and go, this is an expensive knife, isn't it? They can tell right away. And I think that's something that's really cool, that it doesn't translate with everything. I own a lot of really expensive knives that it's not immediately apparent, but this knife with a lot of people, they're like, that's a pricey one, isn't it? Yeah. Would love to see a Cortex XL with that OG Cortex magic. That would I would die for that. That would be so good. But this is good. This is a recommendable knife, and it's also going to go on my favorite knives of all time playlist because it really is. I love these small batch American knife makers that are doing incredible work. Like this is really, really incredible. I think the price is a bit high, but I do think that it's awesome. And this is clearly like mastercraft level American knife making. Big fan of Brown knives, and love the way that you did the lock there. I think that's so cool. So anyways, I think that's going to be about it today, guys. Check this knife out. Check out Brown Knives. They're not easy to get a hold of, but follow him on Instagram, which I know is kind of dead for knife content right now. Thanks a lot, Instagram. You guys are doing a great job, right? Facebook, Meta, Instagram, just really great. Definitely keep doing exactly what you're doing because it is clearly working and you don't need to change anything, idiots. But follow them on Instagram. And check out his website. I'll have his website linked down in the description. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. And for the time being, at least, on TikTok at _metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.